if the idea is good enough, the money will follow it. So I suppose believe in yourself that the money will come, back yourself and your idea, and the money will follow that.
Understand that it's a journey and be prepared for it. It's ups and downs. It's like life. Take the opportunities and the lessons. Let those no's, any negatives, let them just roll off your back. You can't hold on to that, and keep going with it very positive.
Now we're heading to Donegal to chat with Sally-Ann Sherry. Sally-Ann is a lawyer and general counsel of Bartra, an international real estate company headquartered in Dublin, and she's co-founder of Kahm Sustainable Swimwear, Kahm.ie, established in 2021 and is based in Donegal. She's a mother to 4 young children and a member of the Institute of Directors in Ireland. She sits on the board of 2 charitable organisations and is secretary and founding member of the Donegal Dublin Business Network. Sally-Ann has over 20 years business acumen experience, and for the last 6 years has been working with an entrepreneur and investor, but now the shoe is on the other foot, and her co-founding sister, Anya, are navigating their side hustle. So Sally-Ann, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Claire.
So do you want to tell us a bit more about Kahm, and how did you and your sister, Anya, come up with the idea?
Yeah, so well, you'll hear from my accent. I'm from Donegal. I'm actually in Dublin at the moment. I'm based here in my day job, but Kahm Sustainable Swimwear is based in Dublin and Donegal, where my sister's based. So I am general counsel of a property development company. It's about 6.5 years old, but before that, I was working for the same entrepreneur back and forth for a couple of years before that, and I trained as a solicitor with a big firm in Dublin called Matheson. So I suppose I've been in the business environment for a long time, and I've been working for entrepreneurs, mostly real estate entrepreneurs, but as everybody who does a bit of business knows, entrepreneurs are interested in all types of business. So even they, would have had massive property developments, but maybe other tech investments and other sorts of random investments. So I've been watching that for years, and I've been the lawyer who has put through the deals, who's financed the deals, who's, I wouldn't be the person doing the commercial transaction. I would be told, here's what we've agreed, kind of put it through the legals. So I've been on that transaction journey for years and years. And I suppose in the last few years, I've started to feel like I'd love to see what it's like to be the decision maker, to be the commercial, the deal maker, and not just the lawyer. Because even I sit on the directors of Bartra, but I'm very much the lawyer in the room. So it was a few years ago. I suppose the other thing, I've had 4 small children. They're the eldest is 9, the smallest is 3, and that really sort of not set me back. But there was a couple of years there where that was all I could manage, my day job plus kids, whether I was either pregnant or breastfeeding or just back, or my brain was mush. So it was really, when I kind of came to the end of having the kids, that I thought I would love to try something in business as well. So I suppose I've been looking for ideas for the last few years, and then my sister came back from Byron Bay in Australia, and she had this whole buzz of sustainability, and we were both swimmers. So I suppose it gave us the confidence that if we were going to do something in the swimming sphere, that we both knew that area. We'd both been wearing swimsuits since we were kids, both swam competitively for years. So I said, I'll try and put together things like, the domain name, the business name, all the bits and pieces. And she went off and sort of did the creative thinking about styles and that kind of thing. So this time last year, we had this sort of main details agreed and started sort of getting a manufacturer sorted. And I suppose it was the start of the summer when our first swimsuit came out, and that's been the journey since. We've been sort of figuring out what works, what swimsuits are really popular, what sizes are most popular. I suppose just trying to then match the demand with the supply. But like, I'm completely out of my comfort zone, that I know what I'm doing day to day, buying and selling, finance and properties, but what do I know about swimming suits and e-commerce? It's all new.
And I mean, you secured orders from across the world already, from Donegal, all across Ireland, Singapore, Chicago, London. How did you finance Kahm up until this point, and do you plan to raise additional funding in the future?
Yeah, so up to now, I've self-financed it, and that's because I have a good job and I was working for 20 years before I created the company with Anya. And at the moment, my intention is that we'll continue to self-finance and finance this year. But what we're looking at is things like Wayflyer and e-commerce providers that would help with stock. The funding for stock and that kind of thing, because I suppose what I've learned in my years in business is that hold your equity as long as you can, build your company to a position where it's as valuable as possible before you let anything go, and that's the principles of what I've learned from the entrepreneurs I've been working for years. So that's the same approach I'm taking to this, that I will hold as long as I can until I get to a point where I can see growth potential, but I just can't fund it. I expect the end of this year to feel that pressure will begin to come down on us, and I will then look. But for now, I'm hoping to try to self-finance and then use companies like Wayflyer.
And then we talked, Derval had mentioned earlier, one of our top 3 tips was, don't fear failure. So let's talk about the fear of failure. You mentioned when we chatted, for the first 6 months of your startup, that you didn't want to tell anyone that you were behind it. Tell us how you're overcoming that and the story behind that.
Yeah, I suppose that was a bit of 2 things. One was, I have a business profile in what I do, and I have, a LinkedIn profile where I'm general counsel of a development company, and that's what people know me as. And I was conscious that I didn't want to confuse that message, because I'm still in my day job. I still work full time for someone. And I suppose I just wanted to manage that if I came out all guns blazing that I had this swimwear company, it would confuse day-to-day people on what I actually do. So I suppose there was a good few months there where I was trying to make sure that when people found out that I did it, they knew that I was doing it with my sister and that she was leading the day-to-days. So it was a really funny couple of months where, as well, our website was quite amateur at the beginning, and we got some funding from the local enterprise office at the end of the year where we upgraded the website. But I was a little bit conscious that it wasn't the product that I would like it to be before I would tell everybody that I was behind it as well. So just that couple of months where you think this could be a complete flop, and nobody might like our swimsuits, they might all get sent back, and I could go off and pretend I had nothing to do with it.
If we haven't seen the swimsuits, Sally Ann, they should go on to kahm.ie, because they're beautiful, and the added value then is that they are made from recycled and they're sustainable product.
Yeah.
But we
suppose the thing now, Claire, though, is, and this is one of the challenges that I found, we are still waiting on supplies to arrive. So our shop is really empty at the minute compared to, all of the stock that's ordered. And I know a lot of people are finding stock, and it's the same in all types of materials. They're getting delayed, and, it's across global supply chains. But we were supposed to have loads of stuff in January. It's now February, and we still don't have it. So we're really, really anxious to get stock. So if you see something you like, it could be another couple of weeks till it's in there.
And we talked about failure, but what about the dreaded imposter syndrome? Because Sally Ann, when we talked previously, you said that you feel like you have 2 lives, one where you're a lawyer and you know what you're doing, and the other where you own a startup and you don't have a clue. So we all battle with our inner demons and the external forces all the time. Do you think that females are slower to take investment and scale because they like to be in control and are more risk averse?
Yeah, I think we have a very different approach, and I suppose it's taken me a bit of time to embrace that. And I've been working for male entrepreneurs for so long that I was sort of, that was my mindset, because they approach things in a certain way. So therefore, so did I. And it's taken me a long time to kind of come around to the female way of thinking and to sort of embrace it. And I have an example of a couple of years ago when I was kind of moving out of, I'd had my last child. I knew that was it, no more babies. And I was kind of happy in my day job. I had it under control, and I wanted to do something in business. And I was speaking to who I would call a mentor, a really, really successful male entrepreneur, has scaled massive company and has been really, really successful. So I had a couple of sessions with him where, he was trying to help me, trying to kind of understand what I was trying to do and where I wanted to go. And the first couple of sessions were really exciting. I was thinking, wow, I just want to do what he's done, and how do I do it? And then the last session, which wasn't on purpose, the last session, but he sort of said, I think I've identified what you need to work on. Fine. So he kind of told me, and he said, look, I'll invest in you. You find a business concept and I'll give you the money. And I said, right. And he said, well, if I find a business concept, I'll tell you what it is and you can tell me if you're happy, or you find one and between us, we'll find a business concept. And he's like, I'll back you. He said, when I back somebody like this, I expect that they're all in. I expect, you feel your house is in. You feel that that everything's on the line. You feel that if you have an important meeting and it clashes with a parent-teacher meeting at school, you need to go to the important meeting. And my face fell because I thought, oh no, this is not for me. And I said, well, do I have to? Like, can I not do both? And he said, well, I was never at a parent-teacher meeting. And I said, but you're not the mother, and where was your wife working? And he said, no, my wife wasn't working. I said, well, I struggle with that, but it's not to say I don't want to work with you, and I don't. But I came away from that and I was gutted because I thought, I can't be an entrepreneur because I'll be at the parent-teacher meeting. And it took me a year after that to come round to the concept that I can be, and women can, we navigate these things different. But that was the difference between the male approach to it and then adapting to say, I'm a woman. I'm not trying to be a man. I'm a mother of 4 small children, and I want to be a good mother to them, and I want to be at their parent-teacher meetings, but I can also be successful in business. So I suppose that was one of the things that when I was preparing for this, it really struck me as I kind of forgot how shocking that was at the time and came away from it thinking, I can't do this. But now I think I can, and I think any of us can, and we can also be at the parent-teacher meeting.
Exactly, you can have both. And sometimes if someone tells you something so many times, you start to believe it, but it's about training your mindset to be kind of, that superpower is the fact that as a female, you can have both. And then just because we are running out of time, what would be your top 2 tips for other females to help them build their skills and resilience and tenacity?
It's terrible, says you have good questions. Well, one of them, I have a couple of really quick tidbits. One thing is in emails, because so much of our lives are in emails. My number 1 rule on emails is don't reply when you're mad. Sleep on it. And that has served me well over the years. And then the second thing is, if you're worrying about funding something and you've got a business idea and you worry, how am I going to get this funded? And I've learned this from the last 10 or 15 years, watching other people. If the idea is good enough, the money will follow it. So I suppose believe in yourself that the money will come. And I suppose that's like back yourself and your idea, and the money will follow that. So that's it, Claire. That's
great
my
tidbits for today. Leave it on those 2 positive thoughts. Sally-Ann, but stay with us for the Q&A session in a while, and everyone get your questions on the chat for that. So now to Limerick, and a huge welcome to our friends and our music-loving sisters, Perry and Jacqui Meskell, co-founders of Huggnote, an Irish female-founded tech startup. Huggnote is the world's first messaging app for emotion, turning songs into virtual hugs, and I hope many of you used it yesterday to send your hugs for Valentine's Day to friends all over the world. They've had a viral growth of over 300,000 users across 205 countries. And the startup has won numerous awards and most recently shortlisted for Digital Trailblazer of the Year at Digital Business Ireland's Digi Awards 21. So founders Jacqui and Perry, they have an inspiring story to share on their journey to award-winning entrepreneurship. So you're very welcome.
Thanks so much, Claire. Great to be here, everybody. So inspired by Derval and Sally-Ann and like nodding along. Yeah, it's crazy. Even if we're all in different spaces, it's exactly the same struggles. And yeah,
great to have you here. And
sure.
for those,
well,
So I was just going to say, for those in our community who haven't been lucky enough to have Huggnote in their lives yet, please tell us, about your tech startup and your journey so far, and also not to mention the many awards that you've won, including the $50,000 from the US TV show 2 Minute Drill.
Sure. So basically, our situation's a little strange because we never had any intention to start a startup. We didn't know what that was, in fact. So I had a day job. I was a consultant in Brussels. Perry had her day job here. So I had been to a tech conference. I'd had some sort of idea that I think women should be more involved in tech. And I went to this tech conference. I won't mention what it was. And at the time, there were hardly any women there. In fact, the promotional campaign for it was that there was going to be lots of these beer, lots of these computers, and none of these like women. So I got there and heard everybody talking on these stages about billion-dollar deals, and often they were female sort of problems that they were discussing or that they were solving with their tech or their solutions. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. More women need to start doing this and whatever. And then I went back. I was like waiting for the other women to come and start doing the tech companies. And then I had a moment where a friend of mine at home had a really difficult experience. She'd had a miscarriage, and I felt so bad that I couldn't be there to give her a hug. And then a song came on the radio that brought back all these happy memories of when we were in college and happy and had no problems. And I thought to myself, if there was a way to sort of digitally gift wrap this song and send it to her, that it would say everything that words couldn't. And so Perry and I had always sort of sent songs to each other. She had just graduated with a first class honours in her tech commercialization masters, which she didn't know what she was going to do with. So I just thought, hang on, maybe we're the ones that are meant to step up and do this thing and, see if we can make this work. So that's basically the origin story. Imposter syndrome was really all there. We went to this conference in Las Vegas really early on with our little tiny prototype. Like, we literally didn't know anything. We'd no network either for tech or anything. So we had to go to this meetup and just we went in like matching pink jeans to this very high profile tech conference. Yeah, we were all about the brand and the name and everything, but we were like, I literally had to get someone. I sketched it out. Like, can you make this? Are you a developer? Okay, do you know how to make this thing? And we were really starting with like zero. And then we found ourselves at this conference in a sea of very technical men at their booths with their very technical startups. And we didn't even understand them when they tried to tell us what they were doing. And we thought, what are we doing? We do not belong here. This is craziness. And we barely had like smartphones ourselves at the time even. But then there was a huge queue lining up to use our booths. We only had Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You was the only song we had. But people were starting to send it because they were all in the doghouse with their girlfriends back home because they were in Vegas, I guess. And we just realized we may not know everything about tech, but we're certainly on to something here. So we pitched Enterprise Ireland, put a business plan around it. And long story short, we've ended up where we are with a beta that's doing really well. We've won awards from Google, Mozilla. The awards are the 50 grand prize. Yeah. On 2 Minute Drill came about a serendipity, chasing those leads and those opportunities. We got a ticket to a tech conference online. When we did the conference, there were some mentor sessions. We were forget the conference, girls, always go to the mentor sessions or the meetings if you can do that. Or at least we've even realized that you hang out at the hotels. That's where the investors are. Don't actually stand at your booths, like hire someone to stand there if you have to, but go and hang out where the money is. But anyway, so I met a mentor at that, and he suggested that we would have been a good fit for this US TV show where you pitch live on TV for 2 minutes. And there was a 50K prize at the end of it. So we won that. It was terrifying, but yeah.
You also talked about at the beginning of your journey, you didn't feel that you had a place in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Has that changed since, or has your mindset changed?
Yeah, I mean, you make your place in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I think the more of us that are doing this and that see each other doing this, and that this sort of has this ripple effect, the more of a place that we will have, the more space we'll take up. But you do just have to take that space and own it. And there is an ecosystem there, things are improving, but not fast enough. And I think you still have to just figure a way to make the entrepreneurial ecosystem that does exist to fit your needs and create it if you have to.
From your opinion and experience, what do you think is currently holding back women from founding and scaling companies?
I think it's probably fear. Claire, to be honest. And like, I can only speak for myself, but I went to like an all-girls school, and it was never anything that was something I was brought up to believe I could do, even though I actually have like 3 master's degrees. You know, it took me ages, it took me years to kind of realize that I was able to, and that there is space to do it, and it is a done thing. I think, you know, lots of females are just out there thinking, oh, I wish I could be like that. And it's like, no, you can. You are like that, you know, just do it. So I think the more women who are inspiring other women, or just giving them the little nudge to just try, I think the better it'll be, I think. Yeah.
And I think the networks like this are so important as well, because I realized that my friends who are men, they talk business all the time. They always have. In the pub, they'll go for a pub and they'll talk shop. They'll talk about their business ideas. It's not taboo. And I found that with my own friends and with women in general, it tends to be like, we're enjoying ourselves now, no work talk. And I feel like we have to get over that a little bit and understand that it can be part of life. It's part of this journey, you know, that it's not something that should be in its own box necessarily. And then we have our lives, because to found a business and starting businesses and companies, you have to have that passion, like Sally-Ann and Derval both spoke about. So when you have that passion, you're excited about this thing, you're building and creating this thing that could potentially help people in the world. And so we need to do better with being okay with talking about our business ideas and finding that an exciting topic as well, and not something that you should be embarrassed about, or that you only talk to your male friends about. That's okay. And you can talk nappies and business in the same conversation. And yeah,
and why not? And you'll have seen the launch of the 90 million fund for startups last week, the announcement by the Irish Taoiseach, who said that he was particularly pleased to see that there'll be a focus on women-led enterprises. And traditionally that there's been a deficit in funding for startups with female leadership teams, and that they need to correct the imbalance. As female founders, have you encountered challenges in accessing finance and support?
Well, the stats are shocking. Like 2% of VC funding goes to female-founded startups. You'll see a lot of, like, if you ever see a higher stat, it's usually diversity and inclusion. So it includes men in different minority groups and women as well. So we even get a kind of a smaller piece of the pot there. Or it will be founding teams that happen to have a woman on the team. So it could be 4 founders, one of them is a woman, but purely female only, very difficult situation. And women raised $1 billion less last year than our male counterparts. So those stats are, disappointing, but we ourselves personally, we got offered funding from the get-go that we turned down. So we're in a bit of a strange situation, because as Sally-Ann was saying there, we always knew where we were going to go, and that we wanted to build something of value and essentially try to get to create $1 billion startup. And to do that, we couldn't give away the amount of equity that we would have been expected to give away at an early stage, non-tech, with a B2C idea in the music space as well. It just wasn't an option for us. So we had a positive experience in that regard, but we have done a lot of pitching to investors in competitions and stuff like that. And I find it very interesting, the difference in the questions that we would get as opposed to the questions the male pitchers will get. And there's an amazing TED talk. Everybody should have a look about it. I'll try and send the link about the idea that women get asked prevention questions and men will get asked promotion questions. And their stats are that men will get like 86% of the questions men will get asked is about where can you take this and how much money can you make a $1 billion opportunity. Women will get asked, how are you going to, maintain your position? What are you going to do about copycat competitors? How are you going to find the people to do that? So it's all a very negative, it's just a more negative spin on the sort of questions you're asked. And so we've been just doing a little bit of research on to go fundraising. So our next talk, Claire, will be able to give you a better answer how this goes. So we're hoping
for round 2 then.
Yeah. But apparently the tip is to turn the questions. If you're getting asked a prevention question, turn it into so if you're asked about how you're going to defend your space or whatever, talk about how huge the market is. And of course, there's going to be competitors for that reason and that we're the people to do it, etc. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. Yeah. It's good this money is available, but I'm interested to see the details.
Yeah. As we all are. And as always, our time really flies during these sessions. But I just wanted to ask both of you quickly, because bootstrapping a startup is tough. but you both are passionate and you're driven to scale Huggnote. So with such pressure, have you any quick top tips for staying tenacious when the going gets tough?
First of all, chickpeas are really cheap. So if you're in a bootstrapping situation, you don't have to starve. That's the first thing. There's always a way, right? I would say, we were talking about this last night, that like none of us, we haven't both wanted to quit at the same time. It's never been a situation, you know, there's some story, I think it's Bono who said that the story to a successful marriage is that neither of them wanted to get divorced at the same time in the same day. It's such a rocky journey. Yes. It's the ups and downs are actually dizzying, like they can be so crazy. But if Perry's finding a tough couple of days or whatever, I'll be like, just you go chill, go for a run, have a glass of wine, I'll take over for a bit, and vice versa. Understand that it's going to be a journey, and that nobody has it made, and nobody has all the answers. So that imposter syndrome, we have to get over this. I've been in rooms with people who are considered the smartest in the world at what they do, and you'll realize they really haven't a clue either. Everybody's winging it. So get over that, first of all. And then secondly, understand that it's a journey and be prepared for it. It's ups and downs. It's like life. Take the opportunities and the lessons. Let those no's, any negatives, let them just roll off your back. You can't hold on to that, and keep going with a very positive mindset.
Just focus on the positives. Just try keep in that kind of vibrational, positivity zone, because if you were to think about everything that could go wrong and all the problems, especially if you're a startup, you would become engulfed very, very quickly. So and
onto that, consider what would happen if it all went right. I think we always think about what could go wrong, but think about, if this all went right, where would I be? And what if I didn't pursue this then and I had quit, what would I have lost out on? And focus on that, I would say.
Fantastic, and always great to finish off on a positive note. So hopefully the technology will work this time. We're going to open up the breakout rooms for the last 10 minutes of breakouts, and then come back then for a quick Q&A at the end. Okay, thank you.
The interesting
This meeting is being recorded.
There. Okay, great. So we have a very few minutes just to do a quick few more questions before we round out the evening. Question, Derval, for you. Pressure, right? You talked about, in your career, running in front of that amount of people with that amount of pressure, and making sales and hustling and pitching, that's pressure. Do you have any tips around pressure? How did you deal with that, and how has that sustained you in this new journey?
Yeah, again, it's another great question. And I have to say, I loved listening to the ladies. Their stories are amazing. And something I probably didn't touch on, and I think that's really relevant, and it kind of comes into the pressure question, is I have a business partner as well. So and that's one of the things I did, is I decided to take on a business partner after my site failed twice, and I felt like there was a big gap in skill set that I needed to fill, and I wanted to fill it that way. So for me, with the pressure, on a really basic level, and I used to do this when I was trying to race well, is I go like, what's the absolute worst case scenario? And then what's the best case scenario? And I just thought, well, if I landed somewhere in the middle, it would probably be grand. I'll survive the worst case scenario. It's very survivable. And the best case scenario is pretty exciting. And somewhere in the middle means it's all going grand. So I think always like not always leaning into the catastrophizing, and so that was very important. And I had, at one stage in my career, I didn't use a psychologist a lot, but I went to this lady every now and again. And I remember she said to me, what's the reality in that? What's the data? And I love data. I love numbers. I think the data will always tell you things, particularly in your business. And I was like, well, there's no reality. There's no reality in that thought that I'm telling you. And she was like, okay, so let's keep bringing it back to what's the reality in that. And I do that in my business all the time. And I go, what's the reality? What's the pressure? Really, it's not what I'm perceiving it as in this moment.
Yeah, and that takes some of that off your shoulders and gives you choices, right? It gives you space.
Yeah. So
I like that idea, and I think we all need to work on the old negative self-talk as well, so that doesn't just kill our energy even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do let myself go to blue sky all the time. I go, what is the blue sky here? What is the absolute best case scenario? God, that's pretty amazing. And I find that really beneficial. But also I think you can't be deluded, and you can't just live in blue sky. Like, you actually have to live in reality. And I guess that's back to another point I would have been making about, like, what's that roadmap? I think for me, the pressure comes on all the time, but the times the pressure comes on the worst for me is when, if that roadmap has become unclear, and if we're not checking in with different things on it. And like, my roadmap would be very detailed in the business all the time. But when that's there and it's down on paper, and I was saying, I always plan things out a lot in the world of track, and I do it in a similar way now. And I know it's so ironic because I have a digital business, but I write everything. Like, you should see the room. It's like, everything is written, and I once I can see it, it kind of calms me.
Fab, thanks so much. That's just amazing. Right, so top tips. What's the reality? What's the blue sky? Be nice to your brain. Talk to yourself nicely. All right, thank you so much. Sally-Ann, I'm really curious around that notion of planning and organization, because you have a full-time job and now you have a side hustle. And you have 4 small people who need your undivided attention as well. So how do you get around the pressure of that, the planning and the organization? Do you write things down? Do you have a digital diary? How do you manage that?
Probably a to-do list is my main tool, and my to-do list is all mixed up between all the different parts of my life. So I'm on a board for something, and they're waiting for a letter from me, and somebody's looking for a contract from me in my day job. My to-do list is all in one place, and I think naturally I think ahead anyway. It's the way I am, and I see it in my eldest daughter is 9, and she's exactly like me. She's wondering, what are we doing at the weekend? I'm saying, would you just live in today? And it's exactly the way I'm built, is think tomorrow and the next day and next month and next year. And it's probably a skill that serves me well when I'm trying to keep ahead of different things. But I would say in all of that, and I would often feel, I'm in control when it comes to my work. But see, when it comes to the kids, I never know what I'm doing. I might have all of my meetings sorted, and I get a call to say I forgot to pick a child up or something. So I'm never, ever just 100% on top of everything. But somebody else will have held the child for me until I come to get him. And it's never a catastrophe, but I'm not perfect. I do drop balls. But generally speaking, it's a to-do list is my key.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. And for so many of us, we have so many different facets to our lives. It's really good to hear this, because we're not just a one-trick pony. We have lots of things going on that we need to attend to. So that's really lovely and relatable. I think so many of us think we shouldn't be like that. We should be something else. So that's really, really useful and good to know. Thanks, Sally-Ann. That's fantastic. Back to Huggnote, Jacqui and Perry. In terms of working as family, we have a lot of sister and family founders here. Can you tell us some good tips around really good practice when you work with a family member? Because it can be, that, and Sally-Ann, you too, you work with your sister. How do you keep that? Sally's laughing there. I'll come back to you.
Well, we not only work together, but since COVID, we live together because we weren't going to be traveling to offices, etc. anymore. So she gets up before me. Generally, she has 2 hours to herself. I get 2 hours to myself at nighttime. I would say we're a little bit rare because we're so super close. Our family call us like the Siamese twins. We make everybody sick because we're like ridiculously close. But we do have, the thing with family is, as anyone here who's working with a family member knows, you can kill each other.
You can really fight, yeah.
And recover. Like it's sometimes I wonder how anybody founds a startup with like someone they're not related to, who's not obliged kind of to talk to them again the next.
Like in terms of the vision for the company, we never fight over work. We have very defined roles that we've just slotted into, and we just keep it going. But we can absolutely murder each other over a dishwasher or something. So it's just one of those things where every day there's, you're just fronting in front of a thing and like, yeah, we're great.
But I think it depends. Like I couldn't possibly start a business with, one of my other sisters maybe. So choose the right person. I think whoever your co-founder is, it's somebody who can be your support system and lift you up. Like Perry's my best support system. She really does carry me when I need support, and vice versa. And we defend each other to the hilt, even though we might have just killed each other a couple of hours earlier. And, you know, I think that just makes it easier. Respecting each other as well in our differences. We're very different in a lot of ways. Perry's very organized and likes to do things in one way, and I am totally different in that regard. I'm a night owl, she's an early morning person, and we do accept each other for who we are as well. And I think that's important, that you can be okay with that, with each other's strengths and weaknesses, and like a marriage, I suppose.
No, I think that's really great. Thanks so much, because we do have a lot of teams here that have sister or other family members or partners that are founding team. Sally-Ann, you need to jump in here. What's your like 1 or 2 tips there for people who have family in their founding team?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is to know very clearly what you're good at and what they're good at, and to accept each other for those things, because and Anya will be the first to say, you know, you do that bit because you will kill me if I try to do it, or, you know, you draft that because you'll just tear it apart if I try to do it. But then if it comes to, you know, photo shoots and creativity, I'm not good at that. So I just let her run with it. So I think it's really embrace the things that your person is good at compared to you. And if you were both good at the same thing, I don't think it would work. It really works for us because we're so different, like complete polar opposites.
I love it. I think that's pretty great advice for any founding team. You know, respect each other and do what you're really good at, and respect the boundaries as well. That's pretty brilliant. I can't believe that 17 minutes past, I'm going to get shot by all the AwakenHub founders. So I'm going to pass you back to Claire. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, so that's it for this evening's AwakenHub event. We're so delighted that you were able to join us. Thanks especially to our amazing speakers, Derval, Sally-Ann, Jacqui and Perry. And it's just so good that everyone comes together and is so given of their time to support each other. And as females, our vulnerabilities are superpower, and it's great to have so many of you as part of our network. So have a lovely Tuesday evening, and we'll see you again back here next month for our next session.